Trusting God's plan isn't always easy because His timing rarely matches ours. We want answers now, we want clarity now, we want results now, but God operates on a different level. He sees the beginning and the end, while we only see the moment we're standing in. And that's why faith matters. Faith isn't about trusting when everything makes sense. Faith is about trusting when nothing does, when the road feels blocked, when the prayers seem unanswered, when the silence feels heavy. Sometimes God closes a door not because He's punishing you, but because He knows what's behind it will destroy you. Sometimes He delays something not to frustrate you, but because the timing isn't right, and if He gave it too soon, it would break you instead of bless you. And sometimes the very thing you're praying for isn't what you need at all, and He has something far greater waiting on the other side of your patience. We look at life through a tiny window, but God sees the entire view. That's why He allows certain people to leave, certain opportunities to pass, and certain struggles to remain for a season. You think you lost something valuable, but He knows He removed a weight you didn't need to carry. You think you missed an opportunity, but He knows He's aligning you with a greater one. You think you're stuck in delay, but He knows He's building the strength in you to hold what you asked for. Trust doesn't require understanding, it requires surrender. And the more you try to figure everything out, the more frustrated you'll be. But when you let go, when you say, God, I don't see it, I don't understand it, but I trust you, that's when peace shows up. That's when you stop fighting battles that aren't yours to fight. That's when you stop chasing things that were never meant for you. So when it feels like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling, remind yourself God isn't ignoring you, He's protecting you. When it feels like nothing is working out, remember, sometimes it has to fall apart so it can fall into place. And when you feel like giving up, hold on to this truth. God has already written your story, and every page has purpose. He sees what you can't, and His plan is always better than anything you could create on your own. Life has a way of testing our patience and shaking our confidence. We think we've mapped out the perfect plan, and then suddenly everything shifts, leaving us questioning where God is and why things turned out the way they did. The truth is, we were never meant to have all the answers. We were meant to trust the one who does. God's plan often looks different than our own because His vision isn't clouded by fear, doubt, or limited perspective. He doesn't just see your today, He sees your tomorrow, your next year, and your forever. He knows who needs to enter your life and who needs to exit. He knows what doors to open and which ones to keep closed. And though it may not make sense in the moment, every single detail is working together for your good. Think about how many times you prayed for something you thought you needed, only to look back later and thank God that He didn't give it to you. That relationship you begged Him to save, He ended because it was holding you back from becoming who you were called to be. That job you thought was your dream, He let it slip away because it was too small for the potential He placed inside of you. That season of waiting you cried through, He stretched because you weren't ready to carry the blessing He had in store. What looks like rejection is often redirection. What feels like silence is often protection. God's plan doesn't always look like progress, but it always leads to purpose. There's beauty in the detours of life. The road you didn't want to take might be the exact one that leads you to freedom. The valley you're walking through might be preparing you for the mountaintop ahead. Every disappointment, every delay, every unanswered prayer is shaping you, teaching you, and molding you into someone stronger. You may not understand the pain while you're in it, but one day you'll see that the struggle had meaning. The same tears that burned your cheeks will water the soil of your growth. The same losses that broke your heart will make room for blessings you never imagined. Nothing in God's plan is wasted. We live in a world where everyone tells us to hustle harder, plan better, and take control. And while there's value in hard work and preparation, there comes a point where control becomes an illusion. You can plan your entire life down to the smallest detail, but one unexpected phone call, one closed door, one unexpected shift can change everything. That's where trust becomes essential. Trusting God doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop worrying. It means you do your part, but you leave the outcome to Him. It means you show up every day with faith that even if today doesn't look like progress, God is still moving behind the scenes. When you find yourself in seasons of confusion, remember that God's plan isn't limited to what you see. Just because you don't see results doesn't mean He isn't working. Just because the door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean He's forgotten you. Delay is not denial. Sometimes the blessing is being built while you wait. Sometimes the foundation is being laid while you sit in the silence. And sometimes God is testing your faith, seeing if you trust Him enough to keep walking when the path isn't clear. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains, not faith that demands answers, but faith that rests in the unknown, believing that God is still good. There's something powerful about surrender. When you let go of your need to control every outcome, you make space for God to move. Too often, we're holding on to things we were never meant to carry. We cling to relationships that drain us, opportunities that diminish us, and plans that limit us. We think we're holding on to security, but really we're holding on to chains. God's plan requires release. You can't step into the new while holding on to the old. You can't embrace what's ahead if you're still clinging to what's behind. Sometimes trusting God means loosening your grip on what you thought your life should look like and opening your hands to receive what He has instead. And His plan is always bigger than yours, always. The dreams you have for yourself are just a shadow of what He's capable of doing. You may think you've reached your limit, but God has no limits. You may think you've gone too far, but His grace stretches further than you can imagine. You may think it's too late, but He makes all things new. Don't underestimate what He can do in your life just because you don't see the full picture yet. Every story in Scripture reminds us of this. Joseph was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and wrongfully imprisoned, but God was aligning him to become a leader who would save nations. Moses spent years in the wilderness feeling unqualified, yet God was preparing him to lead His people to freedom. David was overlooked, underestimated, and doubted, yet God anointed him king. If God could use their setbacks as setups, He can do the same for you. The hardest moments of your life can become the greatest evidence of His plan if you let them. What hurt you can heal you. What broke you can build you. What the enemy meant for harm, God can turn into good. It doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It means the pain won't be wasted. Every trial has a lesson. Every struggle has a purpose. Every delay has meaning. And while you may not see it now, you will look back one day and realize that everything had to happen exactly as it did to bring you to where you are. But here's the challenge. Will you trust Him when the road is dark? Will you trust Him when the silence lingers? Will you trust Him when the prayers seem unanswered? Because trust isn't proven when life is easy. It's proven when life feels impossible. It's easy to trust God when doors open, but it's faith to trust Him when doors close. It's easy to believe when prayers are answered, but it's faith to believe when the answer is not yet. That's when your trust becomes real. That's when your faith grows deeper. So if you're in a season that doesn't make sense, take heart. Your confusion is not a sign of His absence. It's an invitation to lean in closer. When you don't know what to do, keep walking. When you don't know what's ahead, keep trusting. God's plan doesn't require you to understand. It requires you to obey. Keep moving forward even when the path isn't clear, because He's guiding every step. And know this, your story isn't over. No mistake you've made, no loss you've endured, no delay you've faced can stop God's plan for your life. He specializes in redemption. He takes broken pieces and creates masterpieces. He takes ashes and brings beauty. He takes endings and creates beginnings. You haven't missed your moment because His timing is perfect. You haven't ruined your chance because His mercy is endless. You haven't gone too far because His love has no limits. When fear tells you to give up, faith tells you to keep going. When doubt whispers that you're forgotten, truth reminds you that God's eye is still on you. When impatience tries to rush you, trust steadies your heart with peace. The journey isn't about getting everything you want. It's about becoming who He created you to be. And that requires trust. Trust that He sees what you can't. Trust that His plan is bigger than your pain, and trust that His purpose will prevail. The road may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Every step you take in faith is building a foundation for the life God designed for you. Every moment of surrender is shaping you into someone stronger. Every act of trust is opening doors you never imagined. The plan may not be clear, but the planner is faithful. And when you trust Him, even in the unknown, you'll discover a peace that surpasses understanding, a strength that carries you through the storm, and a hope that never fades. The truth about life is that it rarely unfolds the way we imagine. We create blueprints in our minds, we set expectations, and we believe that if we work hard enough, everything will go exactly as planned. But then reality interrupts. The phone call comes, the opportunity closes. The person you trusted walks away. And in those moments, you start to wonder if God is listening. But here's the reminder you need. He has always been listening. He has always been orchestrating. And just because the path doesn't look like what you pictured doesn't mean it's not the right one. God sees the things you don't. He knows the things you can't. His vision is limitless and His timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully slow. Every single detour in your life is intentional. You may not see it today, but the obstacles you're facing are not accidents. The setbacks you've endured are not random. They are part of a design much greater than what your eyes can see. Sometimes the only way God can get you to where you're meant to be is by shutting down the places you were never meant to stay. That person you thought was essential to your story, He may remove them because they were only meant to teach you something, not carry you into the next chapter. That dream you thought was permanent, He may redirect because His dream for you is so much bigger. Trust doesn't mean you won't feel the sting of loss. Trust means you believe the loss has meaning. And isn't it true that some of the best blessings of your life came from the very places you once thought were breaking you? You didn't see the purpose when you were crying yourself to sleep. You didn't see the plan when you were begging for answers. But now, looking back, you realize that every step was necessary. If you hadn't lost that job, you wouldn't have discovered your real calling. If you hadn't walked away from that relationship, you wouldn't have found the peace you now carry. If you hadn't endured that season of loneliness, you wouldn't have developed the strength that sustains you today. That's the mystery of God's plan. It doesn't always look like a blessing in the moment, but with time, it reveals itself as the very thing that built you. When life feels uncertain, your natural instinct is to control. You want to map everything out, force doors open, and push your way into what you believe is best. But control is an illusion, and it will drain you. The truth is, the more you cling to control, the more you'll find yourself anxious and restless. That's why surrender is powerful. When you finally release your grip, when you finally admit, God, I don't understand, but I trust you, you find peace in the middle of uncertainty. You discover that you don't need all the answers to keep moving forward. You don't need the whole map to take the next step. All you need is trust in the one who already knows the destination. Sometimes the waiting season is the most important season of all. Waiting stretches your patience, but it also strengthens your character. Waiting tests your faith, but it also deepens your dependence on God. Waiting feels like delay, but often it's preparation. What if the thing you're asking for is already on its way, but God is still preparing you to hold it? What if the door you're begging to open is already built, but He's aligning the timing so that when it swings wide, you'll be ready to walk through it without hesitation? That's why rushing rarely works. A blessing that comes too soon can feel like a burden. Timing is everything, and God's timing is not late, it's perfect. Think about Joseph. He was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, and wrongfully imprisoned. If you looked at his life in the middle of those trials, it would have looked like God had abandoned him. But the truth was the opposite. Every setback was actually a step forward in disguise. Every betrayal was a piece of alignment. Every delay was an investment in his destiny. And when the time was right, Joseph was elevated to a position he never could have reached without the very struggles he endured. That's how God works. What looks like disaster may be destiny. What feels like defeat may be the foundation for victory. And the same God who guided Joseph is guiding you. The same God who delivered Moses, strengthened David, and restored Job is the God who has written your story. He hasn't changed. He hasn't lost track of you. He hasn't forgotten your prayers. He's still in control. That situation you can't figure out, He already has the solution. That burden you can't carry, He already has the strength. That future you can't see, He already has the plan. You don't have to know how, you just have to trust who. But let's be honest, trust doesn't always come easy. It's one thing to say, I trust God, when everything is working out. It's another thing to declare it when the world feels like it's falling apart. Real trust is built in the fire. Real faith is forged in the storm. Anyone can trust when doors are opening, but faith shows itself when doors remain closed. Anyone can believe when prayers are answered, but true belief is proven when the answer is wait or not yet. That's where you find out whether you believe in God's plan or only in your own. Sometimes you're going to wrestle with doubt. Sometimes you're going to question why certain things happened, and that's okay. God can handle your questions, but don't let your doubt drown out your faith. You don't have to understand everything to trust Him. You don't have to see the whole picture to take the next step. Your faith doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be present. Even if your trust is as small as a mustard seed, God can work with it. And while you're trusting, remember that God doesn't just care about the destination. He cares about the journey. He's not just trying to get you to the blessing. He's shaping you along the way. Every struggle you face is building resilience. Every delay is building patience. Every loss is teaching you reliance on Him. The goal isn't just to arrive, the goal is to become. And sometimes becoming requires breaking. Sometimes transformation requires pruning. But even in the pain, there's purpose. Even in the loss, there's life. So don't despise the season you're in. Don't curse the waiting. Don't assume the silence means abandonment. Some of the most powerful work God does in your life happens when it feels like nothing is happening at all. He's planting seeds underground that you can't see. He's opening doors you don't know exist. He's aligning circumstances you're not aware of. And at the right time, everything will bloom. At the right time, everything will make sense. At the right time, you'll see that what looked like chaos was actually perfect order. And if you find yourself wary, remember this: God's plan is not fragile. Your mistakes cannot break it. Your failures cannot erase it. Your detours cannot cancel it. His plan for you is stronger than your weakness, deeper than your doubt, and greater than your fear. You don't have to be perfect for His plan to prevail. You just have to be willing to trust, willing to surrender, willing to keep walking even when you can't see the road ahead. You are not walking blind. You are walking guided. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. You are not abandoned. You are loved. And the God who created the stars, who hung the universe in place, who knows every detail of your life, He has already gone ahead of you. He has already made a way. He has already written the ending. And it's better than anything you could have written for yourself. What makes trusting God so difficult is that we live in a world addicted to instant results. We order food and it arrives in minutes. We send a message and expect a reply right away. We stream shows without commercials and skip lines because patience is no longer a requirement. But God doesn't operate on our deadlines. His timing is eternal, not rushed, not pressured, not dictated by human demand. And that frustrates us because we equate waiting with wasting. But with God, waiting is never wasting. Waiting is shaping. Waiting is refining. Waiting is proving your faith. It is in the quiet seasons when it feels like nothing is happening that God is often doing the deepest work inside of you. The truth is, if God showed you everything he was arranging behind the scenes, you wouldn't be able to handle it. Your mind isn't equipped to carry the full scope of his plan. So instead, he gives you just enough to keep moving, just enough light for the next step. He isn't trying to confuse you. He's trying to build your trust, because if you could see everything, you would depend on the plan. But since you can't, you're forced to depend on him, and that dependence is what transforms your faith from something shallow into something unshakable. Think about the times in your life where you felt lost, where you thought everything was falling apart, yet somehow you're still here. Somehow the pieces came together. Somehow what was meant to destroy you actually shaped you into someone stronger. That's not coincidence. That's providence. God has carried you through battles you didn't even know were happening. He's protected you from dangers you never saw. He's opened doors you didn't even knock on. And if he has been faithful before, why would he stop now? We often confuse comfort with blessing. We think if life is smooth, then God is with us. And if life is rough, he must be far away. But the opposite is often true. Some of the greatest growth happens in the hardest seasons. Some of the most powerful prayers are born out of pain. Some of the deepest intimacy with God comes from moments of desperation. Comfort rarely builds character. Struggle does. Waiting does. Trust does. And if you find yourself uncomfortable right now, it may not mean God has abandoned you. It may mean he's preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. You see, trust isn't passive. Trust is active. It's not sitting back with folded arms saying, whatever happens, happens. It's showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it, believing that God is still working. It's choosing faith over fear when everything around you screams the opposite. It's speaking life when circumstances look dead. It's taking one more step when you feel like sitting down. That's trust. It's not blind hope, it's confident surrender. And surrender doesn't mean giving up on your dreams. It means placing them in hands stronger than yours. It means saying, God, this is what I want, but if it's not your best for me, take it away. That takes courage. Because deep down, we're afraid that if we surrender, we'll be left with less. But the truth is, God never takes away without giving back greater. He never subtracts without multiplying. He never prunes without producing fruit. What you release in faith always returns in blessing. It's easy to believe this when you're looking back. Hindsight has a way of making everything clearer. You can see how the puzzle pieces fit together. You can see why certain doors had to close. But in the moment, trust feels like walking in the dark. That's why it's called faith. Faith doesn't demand proof. Faith doesn't need guarantees. Faith says, even if I can't see it, I know he's working. Even if I don't understand it, I know he's good. Even if nothing looks like progress, I know his plan is still unfolding. There will be days when doubt whispers louder than faith. Days when you question if God even hears your prayers. Days when you feel like you're moving backwards instead of forward. On those days, remind yourself that feelings are not facts. Just because you feel forgotten doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel delayed doesn't mean you're denied. Just because you feel broken doesn't mean you're beyond repair. Your emotions are real, but they don't have the final say. God's promises do. And his promise is clear. He will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will finish what he started in you. That means the story isn't over. That means the pain isn't pointless. That means the detour still leads to destiny. When you trust his plan, you walk with the assurance that every step has purpose, even the ones that feel like setbacks. Maybe right now you're standing in the middle of uncertainty. You've been praying for answers, but heaven feels silent. You've been asking for direction, but the road is still foggy. Don't mistake the silence for absence. Sometimes God is quiet because he's already spoken, and now he's waiting for you to walk it out. Sometimes he's quiet because he's protecting you from information you're not ready for. Sometimes he's quiet because the blessing is still being prepared. And if you received it today, you wouldn't recognize its value. Silence doesn't mean abandonment. Silence often means preparation. You don't have to know the how when you know the who. You don't have to see the ending when you trust the author. You don't have to carry the weight of figuring out the plan when the planner already has it secured. That's freedom, knowing you're not in control, but trusting the one who is. That's peace, releasing the pressure to fix everything and resting in the truth that he already has. And if you're afraid, that's okay. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward in spite of it. Trust doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you choose faith in the middle of doubt. It means you keep walking even when your knees are trembling. It means you keep believing even when the evidence is thin. It means you keep hoping even when hope feels risky, because the moment you let go of trust is the moment you start carrying burdens that were never meant for you. God's plan is greater than your timeline, greater than your pain, greater than your mistakes, greater than your fears, greater than your dreams. And when you finally surrender to that truth, you stop living with clenched fists and start living with open hands. You start seeing delays as protection. You start seeing setbacks as setups. You start seeing disappointments as redirections. And slowly, your heart begins to rest. Because you realize the weight of the world isn't on your shoulders. It's on his. And he can handle it. He's been handling it from the very beginning. He saw your ending before your beginning. He wrote your story with every detail in mind. He knows every twist, every turn, every valley, every mountain. And no matter how dark it looks right now, the author of your story hasn't put down the pen. Sometimes we think trusting God means the path will be easy, but the truth is often the opposite. Trusting God means choosing peace in the middle of storms, choosing hope in the middle of heartbreak, and choosing faith in the middle of uncertainty. You may not like the valley you're walking through, but valleys grow things that mountaintops never can. The soil of struggle produces roots of strength. The pressure you feel right now is not meant to crush you, but to prepare you. Diamonds are formed in pressure. Gold is refined in fire, and your faith is strengthened in trials. The plan you wanted may not match the plan God has, and that's where most of us get stuck. We fight to hold on to what is familiar because it feels safe even when God is calling us to something greater. We cling to what we know because it's comfortable, even when comfort is the very thing keeping us small. God loves you too much to let you stay where you are. That's why he removes certain things. That's why he rearranges certain paths. That's why he interrupts your agenda. Because his plan is not about keeping you comfortable. It's about making you complete. And completeness requires growth, and growth requires change, and change is never easy. It's often painful, confusing, and uncomfortable. But just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean it's not good for you. Think about the times when you were stretched, when you were challenged, when you were forced to step into something new. You may have resisted it at first, but eventually you realized it was exactly what you needed. That's how God works. He pushes you past what you think you can handle so that you can discover what he already knew was inside of you. Sometimes the hardest part of trusting God is letting go of the timeline you created. You thought you'd be married by now. You thought you'd have the career by now. You thought life would look different by now. And because it doesn't, you feel behind. But you're not behind. You're right on schedule. God's timing isn't late, it's perfect. He's not comparing you to anyone else. He's not rushing you because of someone else's progress. Your journey is unique. Your story is different, and your timing is tailored. The plan he has for you is not measured against what he's doing for someone else. It's tempting to scroll through life, to compare yourself to the highlight reels of others and believe that somehow you missed your chance. But comparison blinds you to the truth. God's plan for them is theirs. God's plan for you is yours. And no amount of delay, disappointment, or detour can cancel what he has written for your life. You may feel like you've wasted years, but God can restore in moments what you thought was lost forever. He is not bound by your deadlines. He is not limited by your mistakes. He is not intimidated by your failures. His plan is bigger than your past and brighter than your fears. When you begin to see life through that lens, peace starts to settle in. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? You stop resenting closed doors and start respecting the protection behind them. You stop demanding answers and start resting in trust. The shift doesn't mean you never wrestle with questions. It means your questions don't control you anymore. You may not know how, you may not know when, but you know who. And that knowledge steadies your heart even in chaos. If you're walking through pain right now, hear this: God has not abandoned you. He has not overlooked you. He has not forgotten you. His silence is not his absence. His delay is not his denial. Every prayer you've prayed has been heard. Every tear you've cried has been seen. Every ache in your heart has been felt. And though the answers may not come the way you imagined, the answer will come in the way you need. Because God doesn't just give you what you want. He gives you what will sustain you, grow you, and bless you in ways you couldn't design yourself. And when the pieces finally come together, you'll realize that none of it was wasted. The nights you thought you wouldn't make it, the prayers you thought went unheard, the doors that shut in your face, the seasons that stretched longer than you thought you could endure. They were all part of something greater. They were all preparing you for a moment you didn't even know was ahead. They were all aligning you with a destiny you couldn't have reached on your own. Trusting God's plan is less about understanding and more about surrender. Less about answers and more about alignment. Less about control and more about confidence in the one who holds control. And when you release that need to know everything, you step into freedom. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop carrying burdens that aren't meant for you. You stop striving to figure out what has already been finished. And you start living with open hands, ready to receive what he has in store. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and realize why things had to happen the way they did. You'll see that what you thought was rejection was actually direction. What you thought was loss was actually gain. What you thought was delay was actually preparation. And you'll thank God not only for what he gave, but also for what he withheld. Because if he had given you everything you asked for when you asked for it, you wouldn't be ready to carry it. But he knew. He always knew. And that's the essence of trust. Believing that the one who sees what you can't is guiding you to where you need to be. Believing that even when the road doesn't make sense, the destination will. Believing that his plan is good, his timing is perfect, and his love never fails. So when life doesn't look like what you expected, When the path feels uncertain and the timing feels unfair, remember this: God is not finished. He is weaving a story you can't yet see, and every thread has meaning. The closed doors, the delays, the detours, they are not wasted, they are not random, and they are not without purpose. Trust His hand when you can't trace His plan. Trust His timing when you can't control the clock. Trust His heart when you can't understand His ways. Because the one who formed you, the one who called you, the one who called you, the one who loves you beyond measure has already gone ahead of you, and His plan will always be better than anything you could design on your own.